Good evening, universe, and welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be back talking about books. 2024 was kind of a rough year for me, and I didn't end up doing too much reading, which is one reason why I wasn't posting here for a long time. But I'm back and I want to talk about what I read, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of catch up for the first few videos. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about everything I read in the first half of 2024. While that might seem like a big chunk of time to cover, like I said, I didn't read that much, so it's not going to be that many books. So for January of 2024, the first thing that I read was Poison for Breakfast by Lemony Snicket. I am a big fan of A Series of Unfortunate Events and an even bigger fan of All the Wrong Questions. So I was excited to see a new book by Lemony Snicket coming out. This one was very strange. It is a mystery, kind of like those other books, but it's also very philosophical. You follow the narrator, Lemony Snicket, as he realizes he's been poisoned during his breakfast. And he's trying to figure out who poisoned him, what kind of poison it was, and why. But every time he goes anywhere, he kind of thinks about things for a really long time before he proceeds to the next clue. So a lot of it is just in his head, reminiscing about things and kind of processing things. I really enjoyed this. It's a very quick book. It's very short and it's really fun. It definitely a little bit out there. If you're expecting like A Series of Unfortunate Events, something like that, this will be very different, but I still thought it was really fun. Next was Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This one I know is more popular, so probably a lot of you have heard of it, but basically this follows a professor of dryadology from Cambridge, Emily Wilde, who is going on like a field study to get more information about fairies in a particular part of the world. And she's joined by a fellow professor, Wendell Bambleby, who infuriates her a lot of the time. So this book really follows their dynamic and it follows the field study of the area that she is researching. It's told in a journal format, which I think is really fun. It lends this academic air to it. It's got footnotes, which I always really enjoy. This is very whimsical and cozy. There are a couple moments that get a little bit darker, but for the most part, it maintains a kind of cozy atmosphere. I absolutely adored this. It was a wonderful way to begin the year. Next, I picked up The Night Tiger by Yangsze Choo. And I was so excited for this. I don't remember much about this, to be honest, because it ended up being a DNF. But basically, it's like a historical fantasy, which seems to be like the kind of thing that Yangsze Choo writes. Unfortunately, even though it was written so beautifully and I was so interested in it, it did have something at the beginning where I was like, I feel like this is going to develop in a way that I'm really not going to be on board with later on. And I was totally right. I looked up spoilers intentionally to see if I was correct about this. Yeah, so there's an element that is basically a deal breaker for me in enjoying a book. So I ended up putting it down pretty early, but it definitely has like a slow pace kind of vibe, which is really nice. So potentially you could enjoy this. But I guess what I will say is there's something with the romance that is really a deal breaker for me. So if you want to look up The Night Tiger and the romance that takes place in there to see if it's going to be a deal breaker for you, that might be a good idea. But otherwise, I would recommend this. And the last book I read in January was A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. I absolutely adored this book. It has become one of my all-time favorites. We follow Effie Sawyer, who is an architecture student in like a fantasy world, but she wants to be a literature student, but women are not allowed to be literature students. There's this author that she absolutely adores, and he died recently, so his estate is doing like this competition for somebody to redesign his collapsing home. So she gets brought in to do that, and that's not a spoiler, it happens really quickly. She wins the competition, and so she is going to be redesigning his home. So you follow her as she goes to this collapsing house at the edge of the sea. Effie has this problem where she might be seeing the fairy king or might be hallucinating him. And that's why she loves this author so much, because he wrote a story about a young woman who experiences kind of the same thing. And Effie is really inspired and empowered by this tale. You follow Effie as she learns more about the author, tries to save this home. It's very atmospheric, very kind of like spooky, watery kind of situation. I really loved that. Ava Reid's writing is gorgeous. A lot of people, I think, didn't like Effie very much, but I really thought she was very relatable and really interesting. This is a YA fantasy, so it does have a little bit of a younger bent, but I still really enjoyed it. This was definitely a great month for reading. In February, I only read one book. It was One of Us is Back by Karen McManus. If you've been following this channel for a while, you know that I mostly prefer fantasies. This is a contemporary sort of murder mystery, and it is the third in a trilogy of contemporary murder mysteries, which begins with One of Us is Lying. This is for YA. I really enjoy this series. I think it's really fun and just easy to read, a really enjoyable time. The characters are interesting. I liked it a little bit better than the second book in the trilogy because it brought back some of the original characters from the first book, which I really enjoyed, and kind of tied things together in a way that I really liked. Overall, I thought this was a fun time and a satisfying conclusion, so if you've been following the series, I do recommend you pick it up. Then in March, I once again read only one book, and that would be Mislaid in Parts Half Known by Seanan McGuire. At the time of reading, this was the latest entry in the Wayward Children series, which follows a series of like portal fantasies and various kids going to different portal worlds. I don't remember too much about this one, honestly. It follows, I don't even remember which characters, but they go to like a dinosaur rainforest type land, which I thought was fun. I am liking the Wayward Children saga a little bit less as I continue on through it. I really liked following Jack. I would really like to settle down with, I think, a group of characters, but for the most part, this is like a fun, quick read. If you just want to experience a different fantasy world, it's really good for that. But I didn't feel like I really got into the characters very much, which is really what I would like to be reading for. I didn't read anything in April, and then in May I read The Foxglove King by Hannah Whitten. I was in the mood to kind of jumpstart my reading again, so I was trying to get into it with just like a nice classic romantasy, which is exactly what this is. This is an adult romantasy following Lore, who is, how to say this without any spoilers, well, she has a mysterious background, I'll say. The circumstances of her birth were mysterious, but she does like runs for criminals. And then she gets caught by the city's clergy. I think they're called the Presque Mort. They're like a series of like battle monks, and they force her into working in the castle to spy on the prince. So you have a little bit of like political court intrigue sort of situation going on. Obviously, there's some sort of romantic tension between her and the prince, but there's also one of the priests who's assigned to watch her. There's something going on there too. So you have a little bit of a love triangle situation going on. This was fun to read. I won't be continuing with the series though, just because it didn't hook me quite enough, and there are other books that I am more excited to be reading. I do think this is a fun romantasy though, if that is what you're looking for, but it just didn't quite get its hooks in me enough. And then the second book I read in May was The Black Tides of Heaven by Neon Yang. And this was really interesting. It's kind of a generational fantasy. So you follow one person sort of over the course of their whole life. And then each book follows a different person from what I understand. This was a novella, so it goes pretty quick. And we follow one character through their sort of gender identity journey while also trying to not have their mother destroy everything with her very selfish politics. And so it is a little bit of political intrigue again. And again, you follow this person over the course of their whole life, which was really interesting to me. But because it's their whole life and in a novella, I really felt like I wasn't getting as much of the character as I would have liked. I will probably return to this series at one point. I would like to read the entirety of I don't remember what the series is called. I think it's called the Tensorit series, but I'm not positive about that. I would like to go back and read the rest of this because I thought their writing style was really beautiful. It is pretty brutal. A lot of horrific things happen in this book, so keep that in mind. But I will probably be checking out the other books in this series. I didn't read anything in June, so that is actually everything I read for the first half of 2024. And I will be back soon to tell you about the second half of 2024 and what I read during that. Thanks for joining me, and have a great night, universe.